Hello students, today will be day number 2 of solving multi-step equations. Okay, so remember a couple things for today. Your 2-step equation assignment that we did on Monday is due today by midnight, so please make sure you get that complete. Take a picture of your assignment and attach that in Google Classroom. And also remember that our next test will be scheduled for next Tuesday, October the 6th, and it will be over all of the equations that we've been working with. So let's dive off into this lesson. So yesterday we talked about 2-step equations and multi-step equations, and we found out that the standard that we're working on in 8th grade is to model and solve one variable equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign, and that's why we're doing this. Okay, so let's look at a warm-up question. Look at a STAR question that involves this very concept. So it says, what is the solution to this equation? Record your answer and fill in the bubble. So this is one of those gridables. You can't even fake your way through this one where you actually have to solve it. Well, we know that there's 3 basic steps to solving this type of problem. Okay, and we wrote them down yesterday in class. We know the first step is to get rid of your letters, or get your letters on one side, not get rid of them, but get your letters on one side of the equal sign, and we do that by adding the opposite. The second step was to get your numbers on the other side, and then how do we do that? We add the opposite. And once you've done that, you're down to a 1-step problem. So all we have to do is solve, and we do that by doing the opposite. So at this point, you would either have a multiply or divide, and if you have a multiply, you do a divide to get rid of it. If you have a divide, you do a multiply to get rid of it. So let's go back and look at this question. It says, what is the solution to this equation? So we've got to solve it. Now the first thing I'm going to do, okay, you see that there is a minus in this problem, and like I talked about yesterday, the only reason why I changed subtraction to addition next to its opposite is to prevent careless mistakes. That is it. So I'm going to change this subtraction to addition and that 4 to its opposite. Now what I need to do is I need to get my letters on one side. Now like we were working with yesterday, we're going to take this letter and we're going to move it over to the left because we like our letters to be on the left-hand side. So that means I start working at the equal sign. Okay, and I just write x plus and whatever I need to move it, which is its opposite, which is negative x plus negative 4. Then I come over to the other side and I write 2x plus 3 plus, now what was the new thing I added? I added that negative x, so that's what I add on this side as well. And I like to underline that to show that that was my new thing, and that's what I got to add to both sides. So now we combine like terms. We simplify our expression. So this 2x and this negative x can go together. And we need to remember that this negative x is really negative 1x. So 2x and negative 1x just make x plus 3 equals. My x's go away here, and I'm left with a negative 4 on this side. Okay, so now we've got to get rid of this 3. We've got to move the 3 over to the other side. And we do that again by adding the opposite. So x plus 3 plus negative 3 equals negative 4 plus, and this is the new thing, so I add a negative 3 on this side as well. And we end up with x equaling, and negative 4 plus negative 3 gives me negative 7. And in this particular equation, we don't have to go any further because I now already have the value of x. So then what you would do is you would go to that gridable and grid in negative 7. Okay, so that's a way that on STAR, they ask you to solve this particular type of standard. Okay, where you just have to solve a multi-step equation. Okay, so let's go on into our lesson for today. I did have one other warm-up question, but we're going to skip that. So we started off yesterday with this problem. 9a plus 2 equals 4a minus 18. And we realized and found out that, again, there's just 3 basic steps to solving these type of questions. Get your letters on one side of the equal sign, and we do that by adding the opposite. Get the numbers on the other side, and we do that again by adding the opposite, and it makes no difference which side they're on. We just typically like our letters on the left and our numbers on the right. So that's how we kind of typically work through them. And then last but not least, we solve. Okay, so let's look at a new question today. We're going to look at about 3 new questions just to make sure that we understand the process, and then I'm going to have you work on an assignment. Okay, so here's our first one. So write this one down on your paper, and we're going to solve this one together. Now the next one I'll let you solve by yourself. Okay, so step number 1 is get our letters on one side. Now, right now, while you were learning how to do this, you might want to continue to do the little arrows. So it kind of tells you what you're doing. I'm going to move this 2x over to be with the 10x. So that means I start at the equal sign. And I'm going to have to move this 2x, I've got to add its opposite. So I write the 2x down, and then I immediately go ahead and write the opposites down so that I don't forget it. And then I have to remember the 36 that's attached to it already. Then I come over to the other side, and I just move over a little bit. I write 10x plus 12. And then this new thing that I added, I've got to make sure I add it on the other side as well. So plus negative 2x. And now we put like things together. So on this side, I've got a 10x and a negative 2x that can go together to give me an 8x plus 12. And if you need to use your calculator to do some of that math, it's okay. My 2x's go away, and I'm left with 36. Now we're just down to a regular two-step problem. Okay, so I move my letters on one side. My letters are together on the left. So now I need to move my numbers to get those together on the right, on the other side. Okay, so again, we do that by adding the opposite. So I got 8x plus 12 plus the opposite of 12, which is negative 12, equals 36 plus negative 12. And again, that was the new thing, and I added it to both sides. So my 12s on the left-hand side go away, and I'm now left with 8x equals, and then 36 plus negative 12 gives me 24. Okay, so I got rid of, or I moved my letters to one side, I moved them to the left, I moved my numbers to the right, and now we're ready to solve. And to solve, we do the opposite. So I have a multiply by 8, so that means I do a divide by 8, and I end up with x equals 3. And if you remember, we can check this by just plugging back in our 3 into the equation. So we would end up doing 10 times 3 plus 12. Well, 10 times 3 is 30, plus 12 gives me 42. So then I do the same thing on the other side. 2 times 3 plus 36. And 2 times 3 is 6, plus 36 gives me 42. If those two are equal, then I know that that is a good answer. All right, so look at this next one. Okay, so this one's got negative 4m minus 8 equals 4m plus 12. So what I'd like for you to do, I want you to pause the video and see if you can answer this question by yourself. Okay, let's see how you did. Now the first thing I'm going to do in a problem like this is I see a minus I need to get rid of. And again, the only reason why I change minuses is to prevent careless mistakes. So I'm going to change this subtraction to addition next to its opposite. Okay, so now I need to get my letters on one side. So I'm going to take this 4m, I'm going to move it over to be with that negative 4m. And again, I do that by adding its opposite. So 4m plus negative 4m plus 12. Then negative 4m plus negative 8 plus, now what was the new thing I added over here? I added that negative 4m, so I'm going to add a negative 4m. So now I put like things together. Negative 4m and negative 4m make negative 8m plus negative 8 equals, and then on this side my 4m's go away, and I'm left with 12. So now I need to move my negative 8 over to be with the 12. So negative 8m plus negative 8 plus the positive 8 equals 12 plus the positive 8. So we end up with negative 8m equals 20. Now I've got to solve. I have a multiply by negative 8, so I do a divide by negative 8. And if I do that on one side, I do it on the other. And I end up with m equals, now I know my answer is going to be negative, and if you were to type in 20 divided by 8 on your calculator, okay, you would end up with, let's see, what is it? 20 divided by 8, you're going to end up with 2 point, and then you end up with, let's see, it'd be 16, 4 over 8, 2.5 as your answer. And is 2.5 an okay answer? Yes, it's perfectly fine. Now you could have also simplified the 20 over 8, okay, and divided them both by 4 and ended up with 5 over 2. And then that would also be okay. Okay, so there's several different versions of this answer. Your answer doesn't always have to be a nice, pretty whole number. Sometimes you will end up with decimals. Now, The only decimal that's not allowed is a repeating decimal. If it's a repeating decimal, when you divide it on the calculator, you must convert it to a fraction. You must leave it as a simplified fraction. And it can be improper, and that's fine. Okay, so those are the steps that we're going to follow in order to solve these equations. Okay, so how do we do this? Step number 1, get the letters on one side of the equal sign. How? Add the opposite. Number 2, get the numbers on the other side. How? Add the opposite. And then we solve. So what I'm going to have you do, instead of working more problems, is we're going to go ahead and start on our assignment. So what I need for you to do in your daily notebook is you're going to turn to the next page in your notebook, and you're going to write multi-step equations assignment, and you're going to write the equation down, and then you're going to solve it and circle your final answer. Now there's only 6 of them today, so I'm not going to work one of them for you this time. I need you to work them all by yourself. Okay, but you're just going to follow the same procedures that we've been working on. Okay, so you can use this one right here as an example for every single problem, or use this one right here for every single problem. The process is the same on all 6 of them. Okay, this particular assignment will be due on Friday at midnight. So make sure that you get these 6 questions done, take a picture of it, and attach it in Google Classroom. So until the next video, I'll see you later.